Hey there friends, Susan here. I have our fun folds for the month of December. This time we're calling it the freestanding fun fold. This one was actually requested by one of you in class. Now there are two versions of this. There's the standard 5.5 by 4 1/4, and there's the 4 1/4 by 4 1/4, which I modified because I thought it was cute to have a square card that was stand up. So actually the template that you have pre-made is this size, because this is the one we're going to make today, and your kit is for this size, but you have the measurements for the larger one here on your template tutorial. So you could make your own template for this one, or at least you'd have the measurements when you decided you wanted a larger card. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. For today's projects and for the initial kits that I'm sending out, I'm using the Feels Like Frost Designer Series paper. It was 6x6, it is retired. The first one I'm going to do, I'm using Seaside Spray, which is this beautiful blue color, and I've got some DSP from that package. So let's go ahead and get started, and we'll cut all our pieces and then we'll build our card. Okay, so let's go ahead and start by cutting our cardstock. Okay, so this one has a mount and then the folded piece in the center. So it's got a mounted back, it's got the folded piece that pops out, and then it's got a front. So we actually need 3 separate pieces of base cardstock for this one. So the first one I'm going to cut is the 4 1/4 by 4 1/4. So I'm basically just going to split my cardstock down the center. So I'll put that at 4 1/4, and then I'm going to turn it and cut a square at 4 1/4. So this is going to be the rear mount. Okay, from the same piece I'm going to cut the front mount, which is 4 1/4 by 3 1/4. So I'm just going to slide this over and cut 3 1/4. So this is my front mount. Okay, so I have a little scrap, no problem. Now the next piece is the part that folds in and out. Okay, so this is the inner card. It's 8 by 4 1/4. So I'm going to open up my cutter and I'm going to cut this at 8. A little more scrap. And then I have to score it. So I'm going to switch my blades. So my scoring is at 1 1/2, 2 3/4, 5 1/4, 6 1/2. Or you could do 1 1/2 by 2 3/4 from one end and then turn it over and do it from the other end. So they're equal scoring. Okay, so we're going to start at 1 1/2. Make sure that's on my half line. Yep. 1 1/2. And I'm going to slide it down to 2 3/4. Then I'm going to slide it to 5 1/4. And then do 6 1/2. Okay, so here's my piece. And I'm just going to gently turn those score lines a little bit. We'll crease them later with our bone folder. Okay, so there's the inside. So now we need the DSP sections. Alright, so let's start with the front of the card. So my front DSP is 4 by 3, which is great for 6x6 paper because you can get 2 of them. So I'm first going to cut this at 3, because it's 3 across. And then we're going to go 4 inches for the main image. So I'm going to put this in at 4 inches. And I'm actually going to scoot mine down. I'm going to be a little more selective on my paper. I want a little more of this top part in there. So it's okay to be selective when you're cutting your own paper for your own cards. And then I'm going to turn it around and cut it at 4. Okay, so there's my front piece. Okay, that's going to go on the front of my card. Then I have to do all my inside sections. Alright, so these two are 4 by 1. So I have a piece of scrap DSP from this section. I'm first going to cut it at 4. And it happens to be 2 inches wide, so I'm just going to cut it in half to get my two 1-inch sections. Okay, so there are my inside panels. This one I'm going to cut from another piece of that same one. You wouldn't have to make them all match. I just happen to be making them match. So I'm going to do 4 inches. And then this one is 1 1/4. Okay, so there's that. Put all my little scraps up there so they're out of the way. Alright, so that's the inside, and then I need this panel for the center part. So this one's going to be 4 by 2 1/4. So I think this is 4, so I'll turn this to be 2 1/4 and trim that. Okay, so there are my center pieces. Pretty simple, right? Not bad. Not bad at all. Okay, then on the outside, we fold this back up. We've got these two sections here. I've got up underneath it. The two sections here on the edges are 3/4 by 4. So I have another piece of scrap. This one is 3/4 by 4. So 3/4 and 3/4 is 1.5 inches. So I'm going to first cut this at 1.5 inches because I'd rather have longer scrap than shorter scrap. So 1.5 inches. And then I want 3/4, so I'm just going to trim it down the center. 3/4, and then they need to be 4 inches long. Since it's DSP, I'm just going to double it over and cut them both at the same time for 4 inches. Hello, there we go. 4 inches. So now a lot of this card is small pieces of DSP. So if you have a lot of scrap DSP that are the long 1 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch, you could use those pieces and mix and match them onto these different panels. So that might make a really cute design too. So just making suggestions. Alright, so here we go. Here are our pieces, and here is our template. Okay. So let's go ahead and do the easy mounting first, right? The front panel is the easiest mount. So I'll pull out this piece and bring in my adhesive. Well, let's use the one that's open. Okay, so I'm just going to put some adhesive on the back and put that on my front mount. Oh, don't slide around, stay square for me. When you're hearing down, the back was foil based. When you're hearing down, really just hold it still because it might slide around a little bit. Alright, so there's that piece. Now let's use our bone folder and do this center piece. So I'm going to go ahead and fold these creases with my bone folder. And turn it around and do the other side. Okay, so this is symmetrical. Both sides are the same. See that? So it's kind of like a double pop out. It's not really a Z, it's like a double Z almost, with the center being shared. Okay, so we're going to put a DSP here. Sorry, phone was going off. Alright, so we're going to put DSP here, our backer there, another DSP, and then the wider DSP. Okay, so and put this one down the center. Remember, these are all stepped in with a little bit of framing. I'm actually going to put my phone on mute, so just a minute so we don't get interrupted again. Oh my goodness. Alright, one silent phone. Don't they know I'm crafting? I mean, come on. Alright, so here we go. Let's put our DSP on. So this time I'm using the foil side on the out, you know, for the embellished part. So this one shouldn't slide around like the front did. Alright, now I've got my two sides. Okay, so that's going to be our center section. Now, this part, okay, why didn't I put one here? This part is going to get adhered there. But we're going to add that part last. Okay? So now here's the next part. And you can do this one of two ways, right? We've got our two edges. I'm going to use this lighter blue on the outside, I think. I don't think I'm going to use the foil, but let's set it up and double check what it looks like. This is going to be what's seen when we're done. So yeah, I think I'm going to keep it the blue and not the foil. So now you can either adhere these now, and then we can adhere this onto the center of them, okay? Or you can put this on first, but then it's a little tricky to fold these back and get them lined up. So it's totally up to you. But here's one trick. This is 4 1/4 wide. So if I use the center line, right, and 4 1/4 would be 2 1/8 on either side for centering. So use your grid paper, find 2 1/8 and come down and make a mark, and come down and make a mark. Okay, so your edges are on both sides. Okay, and then you can use your grid paper to square it off. Okay, and so what I would do, I've done it both ways. I think it's easier to do it this way. So this is the way I'm going to show it on the video. I think it's easiest to run a light bead of adhesive on both sides. Remember, step it in, and then put your DSP on. Remember, it's going to be right on the edge, but stepped in equally. So the base will be framed on the outside. Okay, so now we've got this section. So keep your base there. Okay. So this line on your grid paper is your center line. So now I'm going to put adhesive here on the back of that center section. Make sure it's the right way up. And then this, the center fold line where the two pieces come in, go right along that center line. And then you know that it's on, and you can square it to the base and press that down. And now all those pieces are on without any need to really be folding everything over, but you can. All right, so now here's this. Now, keep this centered on your grid paper. We have to add this piece, right? And as I said, this piece is going to go here, right? So it does not line up with the edge of that paper. Okay, otherwise it's offset, which is fine if that's the way you want it. But if you want it centered, okay, again, you want to use that center line. This piece is 3 1/4. So 3 1/4 is 1 inch in from 4 1/4, right? So you want a 1/2 inch. Sorry, that's 1/2 inch. So slightly out from those two lines. Okay, because this was at 2 1/8. So we want to slightly in. And then this piece, if you line them up with those two top sections, will be centered. So this time just put adhesive on this side. And then position this with your guidelines and square it and press it down. Okay, so there is our fun fold card, our stand-up fun fold card that's 4 1/4 by 4 1/4. Okay, so now let me go ahead and finish this off with some sentiments, because the card's not finished unless we put some sentiments on it, right? So I'm using Night of Navy because it's a blue that goes with our Seaside Spray. And put my adhesive away for a minute. So I have this old retired set, Greetings of the Season, and I'm going to use the words Noel, one word, Noel, on the front here. So I'm going to stamp this on a piece of scrap white, and then I'm going to trim it out with my paper snips, and I'm going to pop it up on dimensionals. I could stamp directly over this because it's a light enough piece, but I'm going to pop it up. So I'm just going to come in first and kind of round off the word so I can get in a little closer. around the end. This is just a light, easy way to highlight some sentiments by trimming them out. You know, we've got a lot of sentiments that have dies, but if it's one word or you don't have a die for that particular word, you can still trim it out by hand. So, Noel, I think I'm going to trim in there by the O and the E. So I'm just going to come down. I love these paper snips. Love that they can just go right in there and trim so well. Okay, I'm going to leave the end. Actually, I'm not. I'm going to trim the side of the end. So it's got a little bit of a curve on it. Alright, so there's my Noel. Let me get this scrap off the table. Into my bin. There we go. Alright, so let me put a couple dimensionals on here. You could even put a little piece of ribbon behind this, kind of, or thread, to give it a little more embellishment. This goes here, and I'm going to put this on this side. There we go. So there's that, right? And then you have your place for your reading on the inside. Alright guys, so there's that fun fold, and I have a second one to share with you, and I will do the second video for that now. So I hope you enjoyed this one, enjoyed putting your cards together. Remember, please send me photos of you using the templates or the ones you put together. I love seeing that you're actually using the class that you've purchased. So, until next time, do some fun stamping.